Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Morning Gardener. Listen, do not, I repeat, do not get upset when you read the title because it's one of the top. Say it was number one or number 10 or in there. It could be number 50, but it's one of them. And so for me sitting here, it's morning. It's beautiful morning here. It's overcast. Looks like it's going to rain. What I am going to do is go out in the yard and cut back some of these trees. Hello, how you doing? I do appreciate you coming in, and you gave me a thumbs up right off the back. I appreciate it. And like I said to everybody, excuse the title. The title is a title. It could be number 50, number 60 as far as being ranked, one of the best. But I got to tell you, it just feels good being able to give this information out. This morning I got up and I was thinking about my fruit trees. I have a total of it's between 25 or 30. I sometimes get the number mixed up, but here's what's going on. When I cut my trees back, I take the branches and I cut them up and I put them down at the base of the tree, and I leave them there. And people will ask, well, why do you leave all this debris at the bottom of your trees? Because it's a way of feeding the trees. I feed my trees branches. I feed my trees grass clippings. I feed my trees compost. And so that's what I do. And so everything that comes from my yard helps my yard to grow. I have a couple of trees that has been here since I bought the house, and I remember these trees serve no purpose other than to block the sun from my garden. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take these trees and I'm going to um, have them cut back, and then I'm going to use their parts, limbs, and branches and everything, even the pieces of log that will come from them, and I'm going to put those around my trees. I mean, it's you got to see it. Once they start breaking down, they deliver nutrients to the trees that are still growing, fruit trees, for instance. And so that's what I'm going to do. Um, and so growing fruit using wood from the trees that in other words, you would just throw them away. The guy that comes to cut the tree down will take them just simply to the dump and dump them, and I'm not going to have that. I'm going to have them lined up in a certain area of the yard, and then I'm going to simply um, uh, use them as I said earlier, as food for my garden. And when you lay these logs around, guess what else they attract? Beautiful snakes. They attract the snakes. The snakes come in, they hide under the logs, they use them as a home for years, and they um, uh, simply take care of your garden. They keep all kind of pests away from your garden. The snakes. Now, only snakes, mind you, I've ever seen. Long time I've been here, um, and I used to give them for my neighbors. They would catch snakes in their yard, and they would give them to me, and I would take the snakes. I'm a garter snakes, regular variety garter snakes, and I would simply take them and let them go in my yard because I don't fear snakes. I'm probably one of the only people on there used to buy them from the pet store. One of them. So this year, I'm considering getting a soil test. Keep thinking about it, but I know those kinds of services are going to be somewhat cut back because of the pandemic that we have. Hello, how you doing, Food Fathers Permaculture? How are you doing this morning, sir? Good to see you. Got people stopping by. Use everything in your yard: tree branches, leaves, grass clippings. Use all that stuff. Make compost out of it. Put it down in your yard. Hello, how you doing there? In my backyard, playing in my backyard. Thank you very much for stopping by. Um, I'm just up and excited about gardening. Actually, winter hasn't set in here yet, but I'm actually planting my garden now. I'm purchasing seeds now. Um, and I'm more attracted this year towards seeds that are hybrids because some of them produce uh, uh, much higher yields. And that's mostly what I'm looking for this year. I have purchased some pepper plants this year so far. I cooked a pot of food yesterday in my slow cooker, and I remember using peppers, um, jalapenos. Can anyone tell me a good way to store jalapenos without going overboard? What's a good way to store jalapenos? Because I got them coming off my plants, and I'm thinking, what do I do with these? What do I do with them? I don't want to lose them because I mean they're good peppers. But I bit into one yesterday, and I said, this is pretty good. It's not too hot, not too cool, just a nice warm pepper. Definitely cool. Right? You know something? I love what you do, and I see you out there doing the food path gardening style. I love that because it makes sense. You're simply putting uh, money in the bank, so to speak. Pickle them. Okay, see, I appreciate that. Yeah, they're not a lot. It's not a lot. It's just something I just don't want to throw away because it was so good tasting. Plus, I grew them and it gives me satisfaction. I'm learning. That's the next piece of the puzzle I have to get into is preserving my fruits and vegetables that I grow, preserving them. Yes, black. Yes, black gold. That's right. Um, and so and now I want to ask all of you a question here. I have been growing in the same soil for 20 years, exact same spot every year. Now I thought I'd add that in there because I've heard the rumor that you cannot continuously plant uh, food over and over again in a plot without giving it a rest and allowing for the nutrients to be added back to it for it to build back up. Um, and what I've been doing is adding all kind of organic matter to my soil every year. And this year, I did pretty good. Plants grew very well, very big and burly. Um, and I was thinking that I would just continue to use the part of the soil that has been used every year. But I'm thinking about also using another part that has never been used, but it's a heavy clay because it hasn't been worked. It hasn't been organic matter added to it. So that's something I'm considering because a lot of people talk. Say, yeah, oh man, every year absolutely add it to the top of the soil. Add it to the soil, and because it's only a plus. But what I'm thinking is that people talk very bad about a lot of things about clay soil. And clay soil, my soil is clay. Right? That's what have. Oh yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Stephen Lewis. And what I'm thinking is that clay soil doesn't allow a lot of oxygen to go to the roots. And oxygen going to the roots of your plants is absolutely essential. Okay, well, clay soil is your best friend. Clay soil is your best friend. I think that I like some characteristics about my clay soil. I like some characteristics. The fact that it holds lots of nutrients. Um, the fact that it doesn't dry out as fast as some soils do. But I want to make certain that it's not going to be a hindrance to some of my plants. Now, for instance, okra does not mind clay soil very much. It doesn't mind it very much at all. Um, and my fruit trees seem like they don't care that I'm growing them in clay soil. They don't care at all because they're growing just as tall and big and burly. It's going to have to be a pomegranate, which is actually a bush, but you can cut it in the style of a tree. But in my area, it's kind of risky because you want to run at least three trunks up uh, due to the fact that the cold it gets here can get really down in like 5 degrees and the I think the one I'm trying to grow is wonderful pomegranate. Um, Hope I'm getting that name right. This soil is beautiful. You know what to do. It has a heavy impact. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you know what to do with it, yeah. I mean, the only thing you know what to do with clay soil is add lots of organic matter to it, lots of it. Because when you add it, I mean, I've seen worms in my yard. They call now one gentleman um, called them Alabama jumpers. There was a worm that migrated into my soil once I started putting down the wood chips, and this worm moves really fast. He um, he almost acts as though he's jumping around. When you touch him or try to pick him up, he just whips his body around real fast. Sometimes he'll actually break into two pieces. And I said, what kind of worm is this? He's not like my regular night crawlers that I have in my soil. Now, night crawlers um, that I found in certain areas of my yard, believe it or not, they were found heavily in the areas where there was more clay. And the worms were huge in size because they were very adjacent to um, my compost pile. Now my compost pile, and for some strange reason, used to have lots of huge. Well, what I did was let me get the story right. When I would leave from my fishing trip, I would take the worms from Walmart, which was a Canadian night crawler, and I would dump them in the compost pile because I'm tired, I'm hot, got back from fishing, and I would dump them in there. Wouldn't even bury them underneath anything. I would dump them in there, and when I dumped them, they would go into the compost pile and eat to their heart's delight. And I'm one of the people that I don't do anything to my compost pile other than to add urine on top of it. Adding human urine on top of this, pouring it in, helps it break down in half the time. Okay, once you um, add that to it, I saw night crawlers when I went to go fishing, and I used to be really abusive about it at one point. Um, I would take 2 and 3 dozen, and didn't need 2 or 3 dozen. All I needed probably was a half a dozen, but I had them, and I felt like go ahead and get them. These worms that are Canadian night crawlers, I'm all the way up in here in Maryland, started reproducing and producing these large family members. And in the top of it, because I went and bought some worms, which is called red wigglers. I dumped them in there as well. They stayed on the top portion of the compost pile, near the top, and near the bottom part, and around the circumference of uh, the compost pile was the night crawlers. My hand to. And when I did this, I would go fishing, and the worms were so big I couldn't even put them on a hook. The night crawlers, they were so big, and the red wigglers had grown so abundant that I wondered, why do people, when they start a worm bin, that's what I wondered to myself, why do they go out and buy 2, 3 pounds of worms at an astronomical price and add them to their worm bin? And when I bought 12, no, 24, excuse me, used up maybe 12 on my fishing trip, added 12 there, and then I had more worms than I knew what to do with. I couldn't even believe that they produced so fast. So my point is that when you create an environment, worms will come. This particular worm jumped around, was not one that I bought. It was a different type of worm that came from another location and realized that I had 9 inches of wood chips on the ground throughout. And the worms simply populated my garden because there was food there. There was plenty of food there. Then there was another worm that was in the ground. He's white, a grub, and he's actually from some type of beetle, and they're huge. You know what I mean? They're huge. Some of you have seen these before. And so when you get these worms coming into your property, I said, why not use them as bait as well? And they were easy to get because they would crawl on top of the ground sometimes. I couldn't put a shovel in the ground anywhere on my property without hitting worms that were of a decent size. And then after a rain, and early in the morning, when I would come out to my yard, you would see night crawlers together like this. And you'd walk towards them and they would be like and go in the ground. Huge night crawlers that obviously were in a place where they were happy. So I thought to myself, when your guy comes and delivers leaves to your property, instead of telling him to put them over there in that pile, just tell him drop it. And you just move everything around and flatten it out and leave it everywhere. Why are you building a compost pile and then later on got to bring it back out to the garden plot and put it down when you should leave it down and it will be there for it to break down and go into this incredible job of becoming the blackest soil you've ever seen in your life. Crumbles between your fingers. Has a sweet, earthy smell to it. Absolutely. You create the perfect environment for these worms. You create an environment that they have to come to. Now, what happens when you get tired? This is one thing they'll tell you when you get tired of putting down wood chips or you can't get them any longer. I ran into a situation where they were bringing the wood chips to me so fast, folks, I didn't know what the hell to do to them or what to do with them. Once I told this company, Arbor Day, that I use wood chips. They said, when we in our area, when we're in your area, can we call you? I said, yeah, sure. They would call me. Now, mind you, if you ever seen a full truck of wood chips and they drop them on your property, your driveway will disappear. Because mind you, I had to move these wood chips and they would drop 10,000 pounds, come and drop another 10,000 pounds. Once that happens to you folks, and your neighbors are driving by and looking at it and going, what is that? My God, what is he doing? Actually, husband to go over there and say, what's find out what's going on. What is he doing over there? And you have so many wood chips. You know you should have learned how to drive a huge tractor to move these things, because you cannot move these with a shovel and a wheelbarrow. It would take you months to move them. So at any rate, I stopped allowing them to drop when I went home. And then I stopped when I had too many. So that was the cutoff. So once I stopped accepting them, then they just stopped calling and saying, hey, do you want any? So that was my loss. But there were so many folks that these trucks, I mean, I didn't know they operate like that in my area, but they were going and chopping down, and they would call and say, hey, you need them? And to avoid cutting off my supply, sometimes I would say, yeah, bring them. And then I would say, okay, where am I going to put these at? I now have no driveway, no front yard for them to put these chips, and no place to park my cars. No place. When I say no place, I mean no place. So that's where I'm at. Take care of your garden using wood chips, but be very mindful that these companies do produce a lot of wood chips. And now my soil is beginning to suffer a little bit because I haven't been dumping wood chips in quite a bit of time. Now there's an old baby. This is mine. Okay, yeah, but see, now I didn't know they would drop half a load. All my teaching and understanding was they would drop, because they really, it costs them money sometimes to go dump that truck somewhere else. Maybe $50, maybe $60. But if they can come to your house, you right down the street or up the street or 4 or 5 blocks away, and they could dump right at your place, they happy. That's $50 in their pocket. And then they're real nice to you because they would like to dump again in the future. So that's how that works. I feel good today. My knee is not hurting me. Oh, I really hurt my knee this year, folks. I really hurt my knee, but it's okay. I'm getting better. When you step on and off curbs, be careful. They look simple, but they're tricky little devils. But I like to grow healthy plants packed with nutrients. And when I grow a tomato, and it's incredibly sweet. That's the only drawback I think that I'm going to miss. If I go to hybrids, I understand that they don't taste as good as the heirloom tomatoes, but they produce more. And I want tomatoes. I don't want to get plants that I'm getting 4 and 5 tomatoes, and I want to produce heavily. What's going on, folks? This time setting alive thing. Well, we're just talking about soil and planting over and over in the same location. What effect does it actually have on your soil? I don't plant the same identical crop each year. I just plant different things, but I plant over and over again. For the last 20 years, I've done that. And I have clay soil. My clay soil is, in fact, growing everything I need. This year, I plan on using my pellet stove. And the pellet stove is going to allow me to have wood ash, and that wood ash is uh, uh, very good for plants that produce roots and that produce blossoms, like flowers and fruit trees that produce blossoms. Uh, and you want blossoms because blossoms, if you have, whether they be vines or fruit trees like blackberries or raspberries, when you produce blossoms, you produce fruit. And the more you can get your plants to produce blossoms, the more fruit you should have. And I also want to create an environment that will allow me to attract onto my property butterflies so that I can get them to cross pollinate my plants the way I want. And that simply means I have to add more flowers into my landscape. And that won't be difficult because plants are plants. You can just find out what their needs are and supply that need, and they should do quite well. And keep one thing in mind, folks. You know, gardening is not difficult. Don't ever make it difficult. Don't ever follow these shows that make gardening difficult. You got to figure it that your plant is a living thing, um, and you find out what their needs are, and you supply it. You make certain that your plants don't stress, that they're fed properly, that they're watered properly, that they're planted at the right time. Um, and you want to make certain that you do these things because if you do these things, you should do quite well. Don't go out the first time out and plant a huge garden. Don't do that. Don't do that. You're setting yourself up. Some of these experts don't know how to do large gardens because you got to supply water, you got to supply proper nutrients, and how much will it need, how much will it cost, and when do you start this process? And so start off small so you can see your accomplishment. If it is nothing but a few buckets with cucumbers in it, you put cucumber plant in a bucket, 5 gallon bucket, put the holes in the bucket in the proper soil, um, and maybe a tomato plant in another bucket. Maybe you want to grow some corn, put about 4 plants in a bucket, um, and, 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 and learn from it, what it needs, how it grows. Oh, when you get addicted to the taste, um, you'll say, oh, I like this. So on that note, that's my time, folks. I feel good. I did. Um, I did get some information across this year. I mean, this morning. I want to make certain that everybody is doing good, and you're planting your garden out in the fall and winter. Plan it out. That's the most important thing you can do with your garden is plan it out. Don't wait till spring and then start running off to the store and buying all these products because the stores love it when you do that because they take advantage of you. You don't have to throw things away that are good for you. Like if you have a fireplace, save the ashes, use those ashes. If you don't know how to use them, learn how to use the ashes. Um, if you have a bladder and you urinate at times, collect it, use it as fertilizer. Learn how to use it as fertilizer. One of the best way to do that is to come on my channel and learn how to use human urine as a fertilizer. Which, by the way, they are doing many different trial runs on this and finding out over and over again that human uh, uh, urine keeps surpassing certain fertilizers as being superior over them. I ran a test against it on Miracle Grow, and it just did better. The plant did better when I gave it the urine as opposed to giving it Miracle Grow. So that's how that works. Urine is, I'm like, wait a minute, how much does urine cost? Oh, that's right, it's free. So that's a plus. You give it to your plant once a week or every 2 weeks. It's a mixture of 1 part human urine to 10 parts of nitrogen. No, excuse me, 10 parts water. 10 parts water, 1 part urine. It will make your plants. Now I'm gonna do with this. We got that. It'll make your plants grow big and strong. All right, folks. This is the Morning Gardener. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you. And remember to plan out your garden. Try to get away from those store-bought fertilizers and stop spending your money on those store-bought fertilizers. It's a waste of time and money. You're paying $7 and $8 and $9 for a bag of animal urine and animal feces. Come on, we can do better than that. This is the Morning Garden, and remember to keep on growing.